Welcome to Robocop, Rogue City. Robocop, Rogue City. This is, of course, a video game set in the world of the Robocop franchise. And it was quite positively received when it came out. Being seen as a sort of love letter to the franchise, a positive example of how to do an adaptation. And it was big last year, but I only played it recently, and I quite enjoyed it, and decided that I would like to make a video on it. So, this video, the first half of it is going to be blasting my way through some criminal slime bags, and the second half will be a more peaceful exploration of old Detroit as I wander through its streets and take in its details. As we go, I'll also talk a little bit about my thoughts on the game and the Robocop movie. I've only seen the first Robocop, but I know a little bit about the others. My understanding is this game takes place between Robocop 2 and 3 because Nuke the drug was introduced in Robocop 2. So we have the introductory cutscene here where we are introduced to the early game's primary antagonist, this guy named Soot, who is the leader of the Torchheads gang. And he's a pretty nasty guy. I will say, I think, just right off the bat, talking about some thoughts about this game, I think the enemies, the antagonists in this game are pretty uninteresting, especially compared to the Robocop movie where they are much more fun. In this game, you go up against some pretty boring foes. There's kind of three main bad guys. There is Soot, who is the leader of the Torchheads. Also, here we are as Robocop, finally taking control. And we are on our way to the news station that, as we saw in the opening cinematic, has been taken over by Torchheads. But yeah, the other main bad guys in this game are a biker gang boss, who's also pretty bland, and then the sort of big bad, the so-called new guy in town, who is frankly also quite bland. There are, however, some parts of this game that I quite enjoy. And we'll get to some of those later on when we see them in person. But on our way to the new station, we can see the street is full of police officers, civilians, and injured people. We are in the city of Detroit, which is experiencing a crime wave in the setting of Robocop. And you, as Robocop, are a police officer named Alex Murphy, who died in the line of duty and was used as the basis for this cyborg police officer called Robocop. And he is essentially invulnerable to small arms fire and is a terror to criminal slime all around the city. This is his partner, Anne Lewis, who is a major character in the game's storyline. And the Robocop movie, as I said, I've only seen the first one, is quite a lot of fun. It's a pretty standard 80s, action-packed movie with a fair bit of humor. And it's, it's not going to blow your mind or anything. It's somewhat typical of its genre, but I think it's pretty fun. And it's it's concerned with a variety of issues. It ponders things like crime, what role do police play in society? What role do corporations play in society? It's a dystopian world where corporations have taken over many aspects of public life. They run hospitals and the police forces, and there's very little role for government in the Robocop world. And what you find is, also, I'm starting on New Game Plus here, and I'm getting absolutely destroyed here. And what I realize is that in New Game Plus, none of your skill points are spent. So I'm going to pop in here and upgrade all of my stats real quick. The movie also concerns itself with what it means to be Robocop, what it means to be a cyborg. What is Robocop? Is he a robot or is he a person? And the game concerns itself with that question quite a bit as well, which I found a rather uninteresting part of the game's storyline, because the Robocop movie, and again, I haven't seen the second one, so I don't know if this changes anything, but the Robocop movie pretty much resolves all the questions about what type of being Robocop the movie lands by the end. I mean, it's the very last, like, beat of the movie. I believe Robocop says something like, I am Alex Murphy. It is not a question of whether he is Robocop or whether he is Alex Murphy. He has fully made that decision by that point. Also, I apologize for the washing machine in the background. I'm sure you can hear it. Such is trying to have an ASMR channel in an apartment building. I do what I can to record around it, but sometimes when you have to meet a deadline, when you're busy with other things in life, you don't really have the luxury to wait sometimes. If I don't record now, it will be hard to find a time in my schedule to record otherwise. But anyway, so yeah, the game basically ignores all of that character development in Robocop and says, actually, Robocop doesn't know if he is a robot or a human, which I found a little weird. I don't think it's a terrible decision. I think I kind of understand why you might want to do that. It's because for people who haven't watched the movie, it is an interesting question, right? Is this guy a robot or is he a human being? But to be honest, I don't think it was even handled very interestingly. I thought it was a somewhat boring aspect of the game's story. Well, yes and no, actually. There were the aspects that I found boring were Robocop's repeated visions of his family and sort of struggling with his memories, because that was really just kind of copied directly from the movie and not changed at all. The part in the game that I found a little more interesting on that topic is the question of, is Robocop a robot or a human? Because through your actions and through your dialogue choices, you can kind of decide how much of one of those things Robocop is. So that was kind of fun, and then at the end of the game you get to see how Robocop is perceived by others and by, the society that he's in. That was a fun aspect of it, was your actions sort of informing how the public sees you, how other police officers see you, how other characters see you. It was a pretty satisfying aspect of the game. But I do think the game is pretty uninteresting in terms of its plot and in terms of its antagonists. I just finished the game a few days ago, and to be honest, I'm not even sure I could really tell you what the bad guy's plan was. I think he was just taking over the city, basically. I honestly, it's kind of embarrassing, but I genuinely can't remember what Antonowski's whole purpose was. And that might be because I'm a bit stupid, but I think it also speaks to the fact that he was just a very uninteresting villain, in my opinion. He just had this whole weird shtick about, like, Robocop is being held back by his human side. He should get rid of his emotions, forget about his family. Oh yeah, he was being, like, funded by OCP to steal bodies so that they could try to figure out how to preserve a human brain after death. Kind of keep him alive. Yeah, anyway, it all, like, makes sense, but I just found it not compelling at all. In the first movie, it's not a particularly complicated plot. The enemies are basically just a little gang of criminals, the leader of which is kind of a drug and crime kingpin of some sort in the city. Not even a particularly established one, but just he sort of, has a lot of influence in the criminal underworld and has the backing of a high-ranking member of OCP. And I should say, in the world of Robocop, OCP is the kind of mega corporation, consumer product that owns a lot of, private enterprise stuff in Detroit and beyond. And it is OCP that designs Robocop and, a variety of other products. And the bad guy in the first Robocop, I forget his first name, but I think his last name is Boddicker. He's honestly, a lot of the interest in him just comes from his writing and his performance. He's a pretty entertainingly acted character and has a lot of presence and character to him. Whereas in this game, the enemies are really boring. They don't have any kind of presence or chutzpah or anything. They're just sort of bland stereotypes of criminals. What I do like about this game, as I said, I enjoyed the influence stuff where, your decisions as a Robocop affect the world around you. But I also just enjoyed the relationships with your police force and the role that you play as a police officer in this game. It sounds kind of silly, but oh yeah, here we get our first bit that kind of bores me. It's just Robocop kind of walking through his memories. He's having some hallucinations. But yeah, the low-key police work that you do in this game, I found to be actually very charming. You walk around and you can, you can give tickets to cars that are, like, parked in front of fire hydrants. Or if you see somebody littering, you can stop them and either give them a warning or issue them a ticket. And then when you're at the police station, you can do things like, receive people coming into the station to report crimes or missing persons or whatever. And it just makes you feel, it puts you totally into the shoes of a police officer in a way that is very entertaining, considering that you are Robocop. And so, to be doing things like handing out tickets and escorting drunks to the drunk tank and all that, it feels sort of wrong, I guess, but like in a very entertaining way, in a very appropriate way, because at the end of the day, Robocop is just a police officer. So, there's a lot about the game that I enjoyed, and that kept me playing, even though a lot of the overall plot and character stuff I found, well, characters of the enemies in particular, I found pretty uninteresting. And then the gameplay is okay. It's not super interesting, but it gives you a lot of strength. Like, it's very hard to die in this game. It's pretty hard to feel threatened, which might make it a little boring perhaps in some ways. Oh, and we get that classic Robocop title card where it shoots up into the camera. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the gameplay. It's appropriate that the game makes you feel strong, even though sometimes maybe being too powerful is not an interesting gameplay choice. It fits the fantasy of the character because, in the movie, he can just walk into a room and be absolutely lit up by small arms fire, and it does nothing to him. So, it's a good simulation of being Robocop, right? I think it was a good choice for the game, even if overall the combat was not very scintillating. There's only so many hours you can spend just kind of blasting the heads off of enemies that just go down in one shot, and picking people up and throwing them against walls before it starts to get a little repetitive. This guy here, Max Becker, I actually found him a much more interesting villain, or antagonist type character than the actual villains. He's sort of a secondary antagonist. He turns out to, he's like an asshole, and all of the police officers hate him. And he represents OCP. But he's not like the actual bad guy of the game. He's sort of a secondary antagonist. But I find him a lot more interesting than Wendell Antonowski, the main bad guy. Because Max Becker, he just has more interesting motivations. He is part of OCP, and he oversees the police force and Robocop. And so on the one hand, he's like sort of kind of on your side in that the cops are a division of OCP, but he's also very much against the cops because the police force has an antagonistic relationship with OCP. Because OCP is always trying to cut costs with the police. And Max Becker is eventually revealed to... so spoilers, I guess. Max Becker is revealed to be trying to replace the police force with an army of droids. And, that is obviously quite antagonistic, because then the cops would not have jobs anymore. So, it's a much more like complicated situation, a complicated dynamic, and even though the police hate him, it isn't as simple as, it can never be as simple as, oh, it turns out he's actually, killing people or something, and so now we can arrest him. It's never that easy. It doesn't just make him the real hidden puppeteer bad guy that's pulling all the strings. Instead, he kind of gets what he wants in certain ways. It's certainly fine to have an antagonist that you can defeat just by, killing or arresting, but it's a lot more interesting in many ways to have an antagonist that you cannot just get rid of that easily. And the cops cannot just get rid of Max Becker like that. So, the journey with his character throughout the game is pretty good. Plus, he's just an entertaining asshole. So, all of our skills are pretty high up there. We're pretty much a tank at this point. So, I guess there's kind of three parts to this video. That first part was me blasting torch heads. And now part 2 is me doing police officer work at the station. And then part 3 of the video will be me exploring Detroit. This character, Dr. Olivia Blanche, is kind of the means by which the story explores Robocop's personhood. She interviews you, conducts psychological evaluations, and sort of insists that you are more than just a machine. But as I said, there are different endings for each character. And I think Olivia Blanche probably can be convinced by the end that you are just a machine, but I did the more positive ending. So I don't know for sure. But yeah, this game definitely landed pretty positively when it came out. And it did look fun, but didn't really jump off the screen enough for me to actually pick it up. I don't have too much time to play video games these days, and so can't just be picking up every new game that has some degree of interest to me. And honestly, with YouTube videos, a lot of my video game playing is the time that I used to spend playing video games for fun has now been kind of replaced by filming for YouTube videos. So for instance, like the Silk Song videos I'm making, I'm making a handful of them because honestly I don't want to make videos, or I don't want to specifically go out of my way to I guess what I'm saying is I just want to play Silk Song, and to make YouTube videos videos on a variety of other topics, I would have to play this Silk Song, because I don't have enough time in my day to both play Silk Song and make videos on diverse topics. So, you'll see a few Silk Song videos. I don't know how long I'll make them for. I don't care to do like Let's Play type videos on this channel. Although that is honestly a little bit of what the Silk Song videos are, and so I don't think I'm probably not going to be making them like all the way until the end of the game. But I might make a handful of them more. We'll see. But yeah, the Silk Song content is monopolizing the channel a little bit right now, I think. We'll see. I'll try to make sure that I'm keeping some variety going. I was pretty slammed with my actual job recently, and so I had a lot less time, but now that we've gotten on top of the work there, I should have a little bit more time to make videos and play Silk Song just for pleasure. But anyway, this isn't a Silk Song video, this is a Robocop video. So, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about like the charm of the game. Because, for instance, right here, you just have to basically receive 3 citizens as they, have their concerns that they're bringing to the police. And in the movie, this police station is pretty entertaining. It's just absolute chaos. There's like, people overflowing in the station. There's people throwing up, there's homeless people, there's people trying to report crimes, there's people fighting, there's people being booked, there's all sorts of stuff going on. And then, the station doesn't really get as chaotic as that in this game. But I do really enjoy that part in the movie where the station, it just seems like never-ending chaos. And Reed, the character Reed, the police sergeant or whatever his rank is, the police chief, I guess he would be, is, trying to keep it all under control and, trying to keep the officers from striking and all this stuff. And he is also a music artist. And I'm embarrassing myself again because I can't remember his artist name. Anyway, let's stop showing how bad I am at random bits of trivia. I am no northern lion. He could probably rattle those actors off in like 5 seconds flat. But yeah, I love all the details that they put into this game to kind of match the film. For instance, as you're driving out of the police station there, in the movie, whenever they drive up the ramp, the car always bottoms out for a second and scrapes the concrete and creates a little burst of sparks. And they have recreated that in this game, which is fun. So this is kind of an open world little playground section, and you will return to this map numerous times over the course of the game. And there will be different side quests and stuff. And you'll be here at different times and under different circumstances. So we will spend the rest of this video wandering around. We have a motel here. Low prices, full privacy, and discretion. Rooms, open 24 hours, 7 days a week. Rooms by the hour, full privacy and discretion. Alright, well, you can tell what kind of establishment that is, what type of activities are probably going on in there when you can pay by the hour, and they are talking about discretion. And here we can resolve this issue. I won't really do any quests here, but I'll get rid of these hooligans because they are blasting their loud music. We have the cloth-eared hooligan. And I will say... I'll do the engineering one because I didn't have that skill when I played through this the first time. I didn't see that response. Car defense mechanism initiated. Electrocution commences in 8, 7, 6. He's bluffing, Freddy. You're such a chicken shit. I don't want to find out. And there they go. One part of this game that drove me a little bananas was they have this one rock song. Fruity Loops, now even sweeter. Pediatricians warning frequent consumption will cause diabetes amongst children. It's impossible to eat just one. Doritos. A little Dorito, knockoff. Lions share cornflakes. Lions share fruit rings. Well, I'll let you read these products. Yeah, there was this one aspect of the game, or this one little thing. There was this song, this rock song, that would just they used it repeatedly. It was often associated with like the torch heads, I believe. And oftentimes they would just blast this rock song. And I don't want to be rude to whoever created it, but it was horrible. It was so unpleasant to listen to. And when you hear it once, it's not a big deal. But they used it so many times throughout the game, and it drove me a little insane. So, just walking by that radio playing music reminded me of that aspect of the game and how unpleasant I found that music. You have the courthouse here, which at one point later in the game you are passing through this area, and you find that a number of delinquents have holed up in the courthouse and have taken hostages inside. We have some graffiti here. Kuzak stinks. And Kuzak is Mayor Kuzak, the current mayor of the city. And you can get involved in mayoral politics in the game, kind of throwing your support behind either of the two mayoral candidates. here we have a little film set. They are trying to film a commercial, but they are having some trouble. They are running into some issues. And you can undertake a quest to help them out. And it's actually a pretty dark quest line. There's some pretty messed up stuff that happens in that. But I love the just the rainy, wet, dark environment here of Detroit. I like how they just gave you this little area to explore, and I feel like they did a great job with the vibes. You know, it's very empty, but it's still kind of vaguely threatening. I love the illuminated signs. I love the reflections in the puddles in the street. I love this hill, the way it's reflected in the water there. This gas station. Hill. It's an interesting name for a gas station, isn't it? And this ends up being a significant investigation point during that movie, or that commercial quest, rather. So we can continue wandering this way, see what we can see. This street lamp illuminating this area. And we have received a message from Warren Reed, Sergeant Warren Reed, telling us to find Mayor Kuzak's stolen car. And that car, the SUX 6000, is another reference to the movie, where that car is displayed prominently and gets blown up. Charlie's Garages. Charlie's Garages. And, yeah, I think they did a great job at generally imitating the vibe of, the 80s action flick that Robocop is, while also introducing some fun little spins on it themselves. They were still creative and were able to, have their own fun with the property. Some junked cars, little VW microbus type thing here, seemingly abandoned out behind this building. And I think, sometimes a lot of times with adaptations that fail, people talk about how it's not faithful to the source material. And I think that's a good critique, generally, in some ways. But it obfuscates the fact that when you adapt something from one medium to another, certain changes have to be made. And, I think with adapting Robocop to a video game, they had some fun with giving Robocop kind of menial police jobs to do, menial police duties. And you don't really see Robocop doing that in the movie. He's mostly, shooting gang members and stuff. But I think even though it's maybe something that you wouldn't say is a faithful adaptation sort of choice, video game context. Because it's, in a video game, you expect a video game to be longer than a movie and to have more, how do I say this? To have less editing, I guess. With a movie, you generally expect that every minute of the movie, every second even, should be kind of edited down to only really important or interesting parts, because you only have like 2 hours, give or take, to communicate everything that you want to in the movie. In video games, especially these days where, 20, 30-hour video games are quite common and can go significantly longer than that, it is not expected that every moment of a video game be the most engaging, fascinating, revelatory experience. And so, I think it was appropriate for the developers to sort of expand upon what we saw in the movie. Not just show, things that we saw in the film, but extrapolate from that and make their own creative choices about, what are some of Robocop's other responsibilities? Does Robocop have to walk around and give tickets to improperly parked cars, for instance? Now, as I said, I've only seen the first movie, so maybe in movie number 2 he does a lot of ticketing or something, and they're actually referencing some of the movies that I just, haven't seen. Here we have a video rental store. TJ Laser Resurrection. TJ Laser is a television character from the movie, and Murphy's son really likes TJ Laser, and Angelina Jolie, and Scarlett Johansson, I guess. P. Roxy. Warning, it is a crime to rent a film for adults. To a person. Okay, yeah, don't buy pornos for kids. Makes sense. And TJ Laser in the movie does some crazy spinning tricks with his gun. And I think he's a cop in the movie. And Murphy's kid is like, Dad, can you do that? Because he's seen it on the TV, and he's like, Dad, you're a cop, can you spin your gun around? And so then you see Alex Murphy in the movie practicing how to spin his gun around like that. And then it actually becomes a kind of a clue for Lewis, his partner, when he is resurrected as Robocop. She sees him spin his gun to put it away, and she makes the connection that Robocop is actually Alex Murphy. Terry Jenkins, Project Doom. And so I guess that little sign there for TJ Laser Resurrection is actually a fun little turnaround on the idea, because of course Alex Murphy was resurrected as Robocop, and then that sign shows TJ Laser, and then he has like a metal helmet on, and the subtitle is Resurrection. So, sort of referencing what happens to Robocop through TJ Laser, the character that inspired Murphy to, learn how to spin his gun around. But, yeah, I think, I don't know, I think I would give this game like, solid 7.5 out of 10, something like that. I did find it pretty charming, and something did kind of compel me to continue playing it, but it's really nothing like, I don't think it's like an amazing game. It was just the charm of playing as Robocop and how they made a significant portion of the game sort of delve into Robocop's personal relationships and his his more menial responsibilities. Something about that was just compelling to me, so I wanted to see the game out. But overall, I really don't think it's anything particularly special. And yeah, if it seems charming to you, it might be worth playing, but I don't think it's anything to really rush out for. So, how about a little bit of unintelligible whispering? Unintelligible whispering. So, it's going to call a bit of Robocop. And touched about this before, I'm not sure, but sort of more, my philosophy to do something along the lines of unintelligible whispering is to not be obviously, I mean, the one that I saw had like 150,000 views. Certainly not an unpopular thing. Clearly people like it and think it out, and so I have no problem with that, and don't desire to, not exist. But it is quite off-putting to me, and I don't like to watch the kind of video that repulses me. This channel